Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome LinkedIn CEO, Jeff Weeder.
Good morning. Good morning, good morning. First of all, how about the band, Spasmatics? Let's give it up for the band. Truth be told, I have always wanted to say, give it up for the band. Never had the opportunity. But you guys are seriously good, so I meant that. So welcome, welcome. It's so great to see all of you here. Talent Connect 2012. It's hard not to look out at this audience and think back to just a couple of years ago, our first event, where several hundred of you met with us in San Francisco at the Palace Hotel. And you see the growth. You know, it really mirrors our audience, our customer base, the way we've been changing the game in recruiting together since that time. So could not be more excited to welcome you all here today. Speaking of changing the game, that's going to be the central focus of our keynote today, talking about some of the more recently introduced products, our focus areas, and where we're going. And we're also going to introduce some new products and services that we're very excited that we believe are going to continue to accelerate the way in which we change the recruiting industry. So with that, let's kick it off. So I'd like to start with an image. They say a picture's worth 1,000 words, but in this case, I think there's only really a few things that come to mind. Visionary founder, product genius, and perhaps above all else, a single word, talent. After all, Steve Jobs was the quintessential example of what happens when the right talent meets the right opportunity. Upon his return to Apple, he led that company to what it is today, the most valuable company in the world. And yet, behind every iconic leader and every iconic company, there's an entire team of talent. Certainly Apple was no different, and Steve Jobs was the first to recognize that, acknowledging the efforts of a world-class group of computer scientists when recognizing the success of Apple's first signature product, the Macintosh. Steve Jobs was certainly not alone in talking about or understanding the value of talent. The world's great CEOs, the great companies, all seem to agree that talent is the single most important driver of long-term value creation within their companies. And LinkedIn is no exception. Talent is our #1 priority. It's also the business that we're in, connecting talent with opportunity at massive scale. When we talk about connecting talent with opportunity, we don't just mean enabling people to find their dream jobs. We're also talking about providing them the tools to be great at the jobs that they're already in. This value proposition, it colors everything that we do, starting with our mission statement: to connect the world's professionals to make them more productive and successful. And by far and away, the most important word in this mission is professionals. It's our exclusive area of focus. There's only a handful of companies that can connect hundreds of millions, if not billions of people around the world in milliseconds. LinkedIn is the only one of those companies with an exclusive focus on professionals, and that continues to serve our members and our customers well. This mission statement manifests itself in all of our day-to-day operations, starting with our members. We're a members-first organization, and the value that we deliver for our members, which is threefold: professional identity, professional insights, and the notion of working wherever our members work. For those of you who have been with us now for several years, you'll find these three value propositions very familiar. They're our core focus, and we continue to prioritize these areas really without much change. What has changed, however, is the rate of innovation taking place at LinkedIn. We are now introducing new products and better products at the fastest rate in the company's history, and I'm looking forward to walking you through some of those recent product introductions. So let's go a little deeper into each of these three areas, and we'll start with professional identity, which lies at the heart of the ecosystem on LinkedIn. That begins with our profile page, the professional profile of record. The way in which professionals reflect their experiences, their skills, and their ambitions to the rest of the world, the way they build their professional brand. And increasingly as a result of that, it's the way in which folks like you are able to search and find those members and provide them opportunities. And not surprisingly, given the ability to make a match like that, we're on an annualized run rate to generate over 5 billion professionally oriented searches on this year alone. Bear in mind, when we talk about those searches, we're not just talking about job seekers looking for their dream jobs. or recruiters looking for the perfect candidate. We're also talking about entrepreneurs who are looking to raise financing. We're talking about salespeople looking to convert cold calls into warm prospects. And we're talking about professionals of all kinds who are looking to tap one another's knowledge and expertise so they can be better at the jobs that they're already in. And as a result of these use cases, and many more, we're seeing something happening on LinkedIn that really hasn't occurred at scale before. People are updating their profiles when they're not looking for work. Think about that for a second. When was the last time you updated your resume when you weren't looking for a job? And that dynamic, that is at the heart of what creates value for you, our recruiter partners, because you're able to find people, passive candidates, in a way you never could before. Recognizing the importance of this dynamic, we continue to invest heavily in making it easier than ever for our members to update their profiles, regardless of whether or not they're looking for a job. And we've got some new products that we're excited to talk to you about. We recently introduced a product called Endorsements. And for some time now, members have had the ability to put their skills on their profile pages. Now, for the first time ever, those members' connections can endorse those skills. And you can see a real-life example here, where Steve Cadigan, our head of talent, was endorsed by Dan Shapiro for public speaking. Steve is going to be coming up shortly to do some public speaking, so we're all going to have an opportunity to see if that's an accurate endorsement. No pressure, Steve. But think about the importance of this as recruiters, the signal this sends. Because when I put a skill on my profile, that's one thing, but when someone I'm connected to corroborates my expertise, that's altogether different. It's really valuable. So if I were to click on Steve's name here, I'm going to end up on his profile, and as I scroll down to the bottom of his profile, I'm going to see all the other skills that he's been endorsed for, things like team building and human resources. And the beauty of this experience is that we've removed all the friction, all the things that used to prevent people from making recommendations. It's now seamless, so I can just click a button and endorse Steve myself. We've also seen an interesting dynamic where people are expressing their appreciation for one another in unique and creative ways. They're suggesting skills that people may not have had on their profile. And you can see here, and this is actually happening, 3 people have suggested Steve for awesomeness. I checked earlier, I could not find the skill humility, Steve, which may explain why you embraced the awesomeness. Steve's actually a very humble guy. Speaking of awesomeness, this product is off to an incredibly strong start. And despite the fact we have only launched in the United States 3 weeks ago, we're already seeing as many as 8 million daily endorsements. So it's great to see the progress that we've made. They're very exciting. That's one of many changes we've made to the profile experience. Another would be the top portion of that page, which we continue to simplify and make more intuitive to use. This is an example of the profile for Mayor Cory Booker. Cory is going to be our keynote speaker tomorrow morning, and for those of you that don't know Cory, he is a rising star within the government, and I've had a chance to listen to Cory speak, and I can tell you without question he's one of the most inspiring public speakers I've ever heard. And so looking forward to seeing you all there and listening to Cory talk about how one person can change the world. So let's say Cory, in anticipation of his keynote, wants to make sure his profile is up to speed. He comes to his profile, and he'll see a very clear call to action to improve his profile. We've never made it that simple before. And as a result of changes like that and the addition of endorsements, we're now seeing greater than 100% growth in the number of unique members editing their profile day in and day out, over 2x. Now, trust me when I tell you this is not an increase off of a small number. This represents a lot of members. And again, this is how we continue to make sure those profiles are relevant and fresh and create value for folks like you. Despite the fact that we're very excited about these changes, you ain't seen nothing yet. So coming soon, in the not too distant future, next few weeks, we are going to be unveiling the biggest change in the history of the LinkedIn profile. And we couldn't be more excited about that, so stay tuned. All of this profile information, this rich data, enables us to do a few different things. One, we can better serve your needs in terms of surfacing the most qualified passive candidates. The other is the better we understand the needs of our members, what it is they're trying to accomplish, who they are, who they're connected to, we can ensure we leverage that data to get the right business intelligence in front of the right member at the right time. and enable them to be great at the jobs they're already in. A perfect example of that is our new homepage experience, where again we have simplified the look and feel, making it more intuitive to find the most professionally relevant conversations and knowledge. And that's important because we have a tremendous amount of information flowing through what has essentially become our members' professional dashboards. Over 2 billion network updates are flowing through our system on a weekly basis. And so to continue to simplify the process of making it easier for people to be able to tap the most relevant information, we recently introduced notifications. Now this enables members who've recently shared content to see what actions people are taking on that content. Are they resharing it, commenting, or liking? It's really important that when people are sharing, taking the time to do that, that they can feel heard. And that creates a very positive feedback loop. And as a result of that, we've seen very significant growth in the number of social gestures taking place on LinkedIn. Over 100% in terms of comments and liking and reshares just in the last several months alone. Speaking of being excited about new product launches, we recently introduced a product that has everybody buzzing, and that is 2 new capabilities. The ability to follow certain members of LinkedIn, and for those same members to be able to express themselves and publish in long form, not be limited to a few words in a status update. And here you can see a great example of this, Richard Branson, who recently joined the Influencers program. And we've only been up for about a week and a half now, and already Richard Branson has nearly 300,000 followers. If you were to scroll down this post that he put up, his first post on building businesses and lessons he's learned, you'll see that in that same week and a half period, he's already generated nearly 12,000 likes and over 5,000 comments. And that's the kind of engagement we're looking for, and that's what's possible when we have people like Richard Branson and the President and Mitt Romney and Arianna Huffington and over 150 global luminaries sharing content. Again, off to a strong start with over 2 million people follows in the last week and a half alone. You know, it's one thing to talk about being the essential source of professional insights. It's still another when you actually come to our site and you see a post from the President of the World Bank talking about how the world can eradicate poverty or be successful in starting social movements. Or you see a post from the President of the United States talking about how to restart the economy, or Richard Branson talking about how to build a business. And it's then that you begin to understand what's possible when we see a knowledge-sharing engine of this magnitude come to life. And the best news is, we've literally only just begun. So, we want to make sure that professional identity and insights and all of the valuable assets being produced as a result of those value propositions are working wherever our members work. And that means in an age of increasing mobility, people are no longer tethered to their desktops, so we continue to invest in our mobile solutions. Smartphone apps, tablet apps, and as a result of this investment, we've seen a very sharp increase in mobile usage of LinkedIn. Over 23% of weekly visits to LinkedIn are now happening through mobile, and that's up from 10% this time a year ago. When we talk about this notion of everywhere, it's not just about mobility. It's also about pushing our assets off of LinkedIn.com to third-party publishers and developers. We want to increasingly power the professional web, and we do that through our buttons, our widgets, and our APIs. Tools like Apply with LinkedIn, for example, that now exists on thousands of companies' websites. And increasingly, we're hearing stories from customers like you where that data is being integrated, again, through APIs, with your ATS solutions and with your HRIS tools. And as a result, we now see over 75,000 developers leveraging our APIs. And we invite you to continue to do so and get creative with those integrations. Professional identity, professional insights, and working wherever our members work. This is the value we deliver for our members day in and day out. And as a result, we've been able to reach critical mass, the largest professional network in the world with over 175 million members, growing at a rate of over 2 signups per second. Since the last time we got together in the same exact venue, we've added 50 million members. And to put that into perspective, it took the company 6 years to add its first 50 million members. Yet it's still very early days, 175 million members today, and yet by some measures, there's north of 600 million knowledge workers in the world, over 3.3 billion people in the global workforce. And together, with your help, we'd like to create economic opportunity for every one of them. So this is the value we deliver for individual members. I'd now like to turn to what we can do for you and your companies. And what we want to do is change the way your companies work. And this is going to happen in 3 ways. We want to change the way you hire, change the way you market, and change the way your companies sell. Hire, market, and sell. Today, I'd like to dig a little deeper on something that's obviously very relevant and germane for this audience, and that, of course, is hiring, and the changes taking place as a result of your vision and the LinkedIn platform. So let's tell a little story here called a play with 3 acts, and we'll start with Act 1. Act 1 is a transition from post and pray, a world where you would post a job and be flooded with hundreds, if not thousands, of resumes, and pray that among those active candidates you'd find the perfect person. And through the fact that we now have 175 million members and our recruiter tool that enables you to do passive candidate recruiting at scale across virtually any variable imaginable, you now can find exactly the right person, more efficiently, more effectively than ever before. Case in point, Conagra, looking for a food scientist with a specialization in popcorn. And you can see here, if you read the fine print, this particular candidate is also certified at Reiki, Japanese or Asian healing, so if someone eats too much popcorn, she can take care of them as well. If you are in the aerospace industry and you were recently inspired by the fact that we landed a rover on Mars, you could do a search for the engineers responsible for that, and sure enough, you'd find the chief engineer who made that mission possible. Now, before I get a call from NASA, please do not send this candidate in-mails until they are done the project. Still have a ways to go there. These are great examples of how together we are completely changing the game in recruiting. And not surprisingly, we now have north of 12,000 organizations leveraging our recruiter tools. Which brings us to Act 2. What do you do with all of these extremely relevant and valuable candidates, all of these prospects you now have in your pipeline? What we heard historically was that you were using spreadsheets and Post-it notes. And so that's why we introduced last year at this very same event, Talent Pipeline. A new application built into Recruiter that enables you to, for example, integrate resumes you're finding from third-party sources and cross-referencing them with a LinkedIn profile. Then tagging the information, organizing it, and sharing it with other people within your companies. We're off to a very strong start with Talent Pipeline. Already we've seen over 50% of our recruiter customers activating this very valuable tool. And day in and day out, we continue to hear new use cases from all of you. And we're looking forward to continuing to invest in what is truly becoming a real enabling platform. Okay, Act 1, Act 2, let's talk Act 3. What's next? Well, time and time again, as we talk to all of you, our recruiter customers and partners, what we're hearing is that you want to build your talent brand. You want to define for the world why your company is the best place to work. We recently conducted a survey and found that 80% of recruiters believe talent branding will be absolutely essential to their recruiting strategies, and 50% of recruiters are going to be spending more on talent branding in 2012. A great example, I was talking to VP of HR at Microsoft last night, Scott Potofsky. Scott's been with Microsoft for 11 years, and he has never been more excited about what's going on than now, because of the number of new innovations and breakthrough products and the spirit of entrepreneurship and innovation taking place there. And he was saying, I've got to be able to tell this story to our prospects. I want to be able to reflect to everyone that Microsoft is working on the future every day. And so what do people like Scott and people like you need to be able to tell your talent branding stories? Well, for starters, you need a big audience. And ideally, in this day and age, that would be a connected audience. So you can amplify your message through the power of virality. You also want to be able to target specific prospects, increase your effectiveness. And you want to be able to engage those targeted prospects, to build relationships with them over time. Perhaps most importantly, what we're hearing from the world's best recruiters is that they're increasingly thinking like the world's best marketers. The good news is that LinkedIn isn't just changing the game in recruiting, we're changing the game in marketing as well. And blue chip marketers like HP are using our company profile pages to build their brand. They're using display media to target exactly the right member. And they're using status updates to engage with those members. So I know what you must be thinking at this point. You had to transition from post and pray and learn new skills, sourcing, pipelining. And just when you got that down, and you've got the best demonstrated practices of recruiters, we're now saying you've got to start to act like the best of marketers in the world in terms of branding and targeting and engagement. And some of you at this point must be thinking to yourself, this guy think I am, a bionic recruiter? Well, fortunately,
we can rebuild him. We have the technology.
So at the risk of dating myself here, that was from the introduction of a very popular television show in the 70s called The $6 Million Man. Inflation adjusted, that would probably be about $6 billion today. There was a touch of science fiction in that. But the good news is that while that bionic man was using technologies that didn't exist necessarily, we have the technology to enable you to do this. More importantly, we have the assets and we have the people. People like Brendan Brown, who helps lead our recruiting team and is borrowing from the best demonstrated practices of both recruiters and marketing to take our recruiting game to the next level. So today, we'd like to introduce 3 tools for you that are going to help you with your branding, your targeting, and your engagement, and increasingly make this a reality. And the first of those is going to focus on this notion of talent branding. And when I think about talent branding, one of the first things that comes to mind is one of my favorite business axioms. This is from a colleague of mine, David Henke, who heads up our operations. He and his team make sure our site is running smoothly every day. He runs a tight ship, and as David likes to say, if you can't measure it, you can't fix it. And that doesn't just hold for production operations. It really holds for any business practice where you want to see improvement over time. And with regard to your talent brand, you want to understand where you're starting, you want to deploy the right tools, and then measure your progress over time. And that's why we're so excited to introduce for the first time ever the Talent Brand Index from LinkedIn. And to walk you through that, I'd now like to introduce our VP of Talent Solutions, Dan Shapiro.
Hello, everyone. How are you? Please raise your hand if you know this brand. Of course, all you do. It's Rolls-Royce. I feel like I've known this brand for as long as I remember. And like all great brands, it evokes strong emotions. It stands for something. And while all of us know Rolls-Royce is a brand, what you may not know is that today, Rolls-Royce is primarily in the business of making the world's highest performance jet engines, nuclear submarine components, clean technology. And so at the heart of their strategy is being able to attract and retain the world's best and brightest engineering talent. And so while it's important for all of us to have a powerful feeling about Rolls-Royce as a brand, it's seminal for Rolls-Royce to drive a powerful feeling in the hearts and minds of engineers and technical talent around the world about Rolls-Royce as an employer. Engineers need to dream of working at Rolls-Royce. And so let's ask ourselves a simple question. How many engineers around the world dream of working at Rolls-Royce? It's a simple question to ask, but it's actually incredibly hard to answer. Think about it for yourselves. How many professionals around the world dream of working at your organization? People have instincts, but it's hard to be precise. And having an answer to this question drives so much about casting your recruiting strategy for the future. The reason it's so hard is that the data has never existed. Companies have run surveys, they conduct interviews, they run focus groups to try to figure out how people feel about them as an employer, whether they dream of working for those organizations. That data exists today on LinkedIn. For the first time, there's a platform that has scale interactions of professionals all around the world between professionals and talent brands. On LinkedIn today, on an annual basis, there are 15 billion interactions between professionals and companies. And whether that's people connecting to each other, people viewing each other's profiles, following a company, viewing a job and engaging, reaching out to an employer, we can take all of this information and glean a fundamentally new level of insight about the strength of your talent brand within professionals around the world. And because each of these interactions is tied to someone's individual professional profile, not only we can answer this question in aggregate, but we can break it down by function, by discipline, and around the world. And so what we're pleased to announce for you today is the Talent Brand Index, a new measurement system so that you can have clarity and comfort that you know the strength of your talent brand around the world. Now, to show you how this works, Rolls-Royce, one of our strongest client partners, has agreed to share with you their data so you can see how this gets put into practice. So thank you to Rolls. Let's start by looking at two populations. The first population is what we call their talent brand reach. It's a measure of how many professionals on LinkedIn are familiar of Rolls-Royce as an employer. We can be incredibly specific in how we count this. Today on LinkedIn, there are 745,909 professionals on a global basis that are familiar with Rolls-Royce as an employer. And the reason we can be so specific is because we can look at things like connecting to Rolls-Royce's employees or viewing the profiles of Rolls-Royce's employees. But to understand talent brand, you have to look at another population, and we call that other population their talent brand engagement. It's a measure of how many professionals around the world have expressed either explicitly or implicitly through their actions that they're interested in working at Rolls-Royce. And again, we can be incredibly specific. Over the last year, 116,299 professionals on LinkedIn have expressed an interest in working at Rolls-Royce. And we can look at that by looking at engaging with Rolls-Royce's jobs, following them as an employer, or researching what it's like to work at that company. And by taking these two measures of their reach and their engagement, and we can pull them together, we can ask a very simple question. Of all the people that are aware of Rolls-Royce as an employer, what percentage of them have shown an interest in working there? And that number for Rolls-Royce is 16%. 16% is Rolls-Royce's Talent Brand Index, a simple and clear measure of how attractive Rolls-Royce is to prospective candidates around the world. Now, this is a great starting point, and it gives you a sense of where you are, but it's most valuable when you put it into context. And so because not only can we do this analysis for Rolls-Royce, but we can do it for other companies, we can help Rolls-Royce benchmark their talent brand relative to a peer set. And while we won't tell Rolls-Royce exactly the talent brand statistics of other companies in their group, what we can tell them is that of their peers, they are currently placed second out of 7 amongst groups that they compete with on a day-to-day basis for the world's best and brightest. Now, you may be thinking, okay, well, Dan, this is the whole company. We were talking about engineers. Well, because we can attach each of these interactions that we're tracking back to member profiles, we can show Rolls-Royce not only what their talent brand is in aggregate, but how it varies by function and by geographic location. All of us know that what a marketer thinks about our company is often completely different from what an engineer thinks about our company. What someone in India might think completely different about what someone in Australia thinks about us. And so now we can take it to the next level and give Rolls comfort that they are winning and succeeding in their most pivotal talent category, engineering. But again, this is a snapshot. This is a point in time. It's a great place to start. It gives you a sense of where you are and what you might need to do differently to move forward. And so we've had a wonderful partnership with Rolls-Royce over the last 2 years. And in particular, over the last 6 months, we've put together a broad program, and for them, both on LinkedIn and off LinkedIn, to think about taking their talent brand to the next level. They've done things such as targeting their jobs to the right members, showing videos of what it's like to work at Rolls-Royce as an employer, encouraging people to follow Rolls-Royce as a company, and bringing content, valuable content that's targeted to the right people to get people engaged in their talent brand. But how do they do? Because Talent Brand Index is a measure that we can track over time, we can help you see whether your strategies are working and how you need to change to improve. Over the last 6 months, Rolls-Royce's Talent Brand Index has increased substantially, up into the right. And they have moved 3 spots in their rankings relative to their peer group. It's been a tremendous success. There's always things to work on. There's always areas where you don't quite hit the mark, and you learn from those, and you adjust, and you move forward. But Rolls-Royce has the confidence that the investments that they're making and the strategy that they're deploying are working. It's a great story. Now, we thought about what's the right way to bring this to all of you. We think that this is a fundamentally new level of data that'll bring clarity to your world and help you devise the right strategy for the future. And so, rather than offering this as a commercial offering, we'll be providing this for free to all of our customers as part of our relationship. And the reason we're doing that is that we feel that together, by having this information as part of our dialogue, that we can become what our goal is of being the most strategic partner in the recruiting landscape that you have. And so for those of you interested in figuring out what your talent brand index is, please contact your relationship manager for more information. Now, before I hand the stage over to Parker, we have one more thing to show you, which is that while we can do this for one company and we can compare them across peer groups, we can also look at the entire landscape of companies on LinkedIn. And across all of our members all over the world, who are the companies that our members are most excited and attracted to? And so for the first time, I'm pleased to announce for you today the most in-demand employers on LinkedIn. It's a group of amazing companies. Congratulations to the firms in the top 10. Please have a round of applause for all of them. For those of you that are up on this screen, congratulations. For everyone else, I guess we know who we're gunning for next year, right? So we'll work with you on that. This information is going to be displayed on talent.linkedin.com/in-demand for both our customers and our members. And not only are we going to publish a global list, but we'll be publishing regional lists, because as we all know, the top employers in one part of the world may not be the same employers in another part of the world. We'll also be publishing industry lists so that we can all see who's leading in particular sectors. I'm incredibly excited about what happens when you bring new data to a hard problem. And I feel like Talent Brand Index can be, for all of us, the single measure that we go to understand the strength of our talent brand today. And we can use that clarity to guide our recruiting strategies of tomorrow so that we can all bring in the best and brightest to our organizations. And so with that, I'd like to bring up Parker Burrill to the stage to give 2 more product announcements. Parker's my partner in crime, and he leads the product and engineering development at LinkedIn. His team and the team that he works with builds all of the things that you use in your day-to-day job. And he's going to talk about how do you take this to the next level in terms of once you've worked branding, how do you drive targeting and engagement into your recruitment strategy? Thank you. Welcome, Parker.
Thank you, sir. All right, thanks, Dan. Good morning, everyone. I'm excited to be up here today on behalf of a team of engineers, designers, and product managers who build the LinkedIn products you use every day. And we've got some exciting new stuff to share. But before I dive in, I'd like to start with something fun. Like many of you, I do a lot of searches in LinkedIn Recruiter. But I rarely think about the fact that I'm searching across 175 million real people. So today, to make it more real, I'd like to do a live people search right in this room. Let's start by having everybody stand up. I'd like to get everybody up, stretch out those legs. Been sitting for a while. OK, great. Now I'm going to start with a keyword and layer in a couple of filters. And every time I add a new search criteria, if it applies to you, I'd like you to stay standing. And if not, go ahead and have a seat. OK, I'll start with the keyword recruiter. If your title has the word recruiter in it, I'd like you to stay standing. All right, lots of recruiters here, as expected. Good, OK. But I'm not just looking for any recruiter. I'd like to find someone who can help me hire software engineers. So I'm going to add a filter for industry equals technology. If you're a recruiter in the technology industry, I'd like you to stay standing. Now, earlier in my career, I worked at Google. And I happen to think that Google recruiters are really talented. So for my last filter, I'd like to select past company equals Google. If you previously worked at Google and are a technology recruiter, I'd like you to stay standing. All right. Looks like we're down to just a handful of folks. You are exactly who I'm looking for. So if you shoot me a message on LinkedIn later today, I'll get back to you with something special. All right. Now, the interesting thing is that there are about 2,500 people in this room, and that search took a few minutes. But searches on LinkedIn Recruiter look across all 175 million LinkedIn members in just a few seconds. I mean, I work on this stuff. And even for me, it's easy to lose sight of just how powerful this technology can be. Now, speaking of technology, I've got 2 new products to announce today. And I'm excited about them, not just because they're things only LinkedIn can do, but also because they're going to put the power of best-in-class marketing tools right at your fingertips. All right, let's dive in. Earlier this year, we released Talent Pipeline, a suite of prospect management and workflow tools that makes Recruiter more powerful and more effective than ever before. Since launch, we've seen thousands of you activate and use Talent Pipeline, and we've made dozens of product enhancements along the way. But building a pipeline takes time and hard work. It's a little like opening a new toy on your birthday and realizing that the batteries aren't included. But what if we could include the batteries? What if your pipeline came pre-stocked? Well, today, I'm excited to announce a new feature that does just that. It pre-stocks your pipeline with warm leads, the people who follow your company. Let's start with some background on the company follower ecosystem. Over the past few years, tens of millions of LinkedIn members have started following companies other than their own. For example, a large company like HP has over 800,000 followers, whereas a small company might have just a few thousand. But each one of these followers has raised his or her hand and asked to hear directly from the company they're following. Some are interested in news or product announcements, but most just want to work there. In fact, when we surveyed company followers, 70% said that they're interested in career opportunities at the companies they follow. Starting today, you can harness the power of your company's followers right in Recruiter. You'll see a new icon in search results and on profiles that designates someone as a follower. You'll also see a new search facet that lets you zero in on followers who are a fit for the roles you're trying to fill. You can layer on other filters and other keywords, for example, to find followers with mobile engineering backgrounds. And that's how you'll find someone like Kevin Fong, a software architect based in San Francisco who's following your company. Now, when you click to view Kevin's profile, you'll be able to see the other companies he's following. Is he interested in consumer internet or enterprise software? Big companies or small companies? And this is incredibly valuable insight into Kevin's interest graph. And it can help you craft better emails and source smarter. Now, since Kevin wants to hear from you, he's more likely to respond when you reach out about a career opportunity. In fact, followers are 80% more likely to respond to an email than non-followers. But perhaps the best part is that followers are a gift that keeps on giving. Your follower network grows every day as LinkedIn members discover your company and career pages, view and apply to your jobs, and view your employees' profiles. So don't worry about the batteries. From now on, your pipeline comes pre-stocked with highly receptive passive candidates who have opted in to hear from you. It's like a talent network, but better. And it's just one more example of how LinkedIn is turning cold calls into warm leads. Thank you. Speaking of leads, I'd like to move on to the next product announcement. Earlier today, you heard Jeff talk about the intersection between recruiting and marketing. And as recruiters, like marketers, you want to reach the right prospect with the right message at the right time. Historically, that's been difficult, if not impossible. The old saying is, half your marketing spend is working, you just don't know which half. Same is true with job postings. But LinkedIn has fundamentally changed the way jobs work. We've made them more social, more relevant, and more measurable. And it all starts with jobs you may be interested in, LinkedIn's job recommendation technology. Jobs you may be interested in matches the jobs you post with the right passive candidates based on their work experience, educational background, and skills and interests. And over the past few years, jobs you may be interested in has become the engine that delivers passive candidates at scale. We put it on the homepage, in the feed, in our mobile apps, in all of the site flows that reach the 100 million plus unique visitors who come to LinkedIn each month. I love my job at LinkedIn, and I haven't done a job search in years, but I find myself clicking on product jobs on the homepage from time to time. Luckily, none of them has been good enough to lure me away just yet. But my situation is hardly unique. This is happening tens of millions of times per month on LinkedIn. How many of you have found yourself clicking on a job on LinkedIn recently? Let's see some hands. I won't tell your boss. Yeah, a lot of hands. OK. So it should be no surprise that jobs you may be interested in drives over 50% of the job views on LinkedIn. But not all jobs are created equal. Some roles are senior or urgent or hard to fill, and you need a way to turbocharge the sourcing process. Well, today, I'm excited to announce a new system that lets you sponsor jobs and have them appear at the top of jobs you may be interested in modules all across LinkedIn, including on the homepage. It's simple to use. You just set a bid and a budget, and we automatically target the right passive candidates. You can sponsor one job, a group of jobs, or all your jobs. And we've included detailed reporting and analytics so that you can monitor performance and optimize your campaigns. But the best part is, you only pay when someone clicks. And every candidate who clicks is relevant, because otherwise, we wouldn't have shown them the job in the first place. We've been testing this out with a handful of pilot clients, and the results are off the charts. We see click-through rates 5 times as high as on traditional display ads, and candidates who click are 3 times as likely to apply as those who find your job another way. In fact, I just heard this morning that one of our charter clients, Red Hat, kicked off a sponsored jobs campaign last week for a few jobs that they were having trouble filling, and was able to generate 4 interviews and 2 hires in just their first week. Even I was blown away by that. But don't take my word for it. We're so excited to have you try sponsored jobs that today, 20 clients in this room will receive a credit of several $1,000s each to try it out for free. So, take a moment to turn over your badge. If you see a gold star on the back, I've got good news. You've got a free credit coming your way, and someone from LinkedIn will follow up with you shortly. We're not the first to do sponsored jobs, but we are the first to combine sponsored jobs with personalized passive candidate targeting at scale. So now you can reach the right candidate with the right job at the right time in a way that's never been possible before. We're not just changing the way jobs work, we're changing the way recruiting works. And hopefully we're changing the way you work. So welcome to a world in which jobs are fundamentally different. Welcome to Recruiting Like a Marketer. Thank you. And now I'd like to pass it back to Jeff for some closing remarks.
Thank you. Thanks. How about another big round of applause for Parker and Dan? Doing a great job together, partnering along with their teams to oversee our talent solutions business around the world. So we heard a lot about change today, changing the game. It's been a central theme in the entire discussion. And it's one thing to talk about the change in our product portfolio, the changes to the LinkedIn platform, even the changes to the recruiting industry, but I think it's really important when talking about change at an industry level that we don't lose sight of the people whose lives are being transformed the most through these changes, the individuals using LinkedIn. And I'm incredibly fortunate to be on the receiving end of dozens of emails and in-mails every week with their stories. The recent film school graduate who could not be more excited about the fact that she just closed financing for her first film. The small business founder in Ireland who's generating millions of dollars in international revenue through prospects and relationships he built exclusively on LinkedIn. The unemployed mother, out of work for months and fearful she wasn't going to be able to find another job given the difficult macro climate, and not only found work, she found her dream job. And then there are the stories from people like you, our customers, recruiters, whose careers have been transformed by virtue of the fact that you've enabled your companies to change the way they bring in world-class talent. Today, I'd like to flip this model of gratitude around a bit. It's important you recognize that when we talk about changing the game at LinkedIn, we're just providing the platform, a platform that enables you to truly change the industry. You, the visionaries. You with the conviction to work every day to evangelize what recruiting should be, what it could be, and then making it happen. And in a world where recruiting and talent has become more important than ever before, recognize that you're not just changing the game in recruiting, you're changing the way the world works. And for that, we at LinkedIn would like to thank you. Thank you, everybody. With that, I'd now like to bring Dan Shapiro back to the stage. He's going to introduce the rest of the program.
Hello, everyone. For those of you who haven't met in person, my name is Dan Shapiro. I'm Vice President of Talent Solutions here at LinkedIn, and welcome to Vegas, Talent Connect 2012. I find that this event's a little bit of a reunion. I see so many faces that I haven't seen for a while, and I see so many people that haven't seen each other in a while seeing each other for the first time. There's a lot of hugs going on. It's great, right? But a lot of what we're here today is to really think about how to take our recruiting strategies to the next level. And we're fortunate to be in a room here with over 2,400 of the world's leaders in recruiting and talent acquisition. And this has really become the industry's seminal event on an annual basis about taking recruiting to the next level. And I wanted to take a moment to thank the people that have been here for the journey with us since the beginning. This is our third Talent Connect. And so if this is your third Talent Connect in attendance, can you please stand up? I'd like to get a big round of applause for these people. It's funny, our entire recruiting and talent business started with the feedback of people like you. And taking this event to where it's become is a lot based on what the people that have been coming to Talent Connect have been telling us. And so thank you all for your feedback and your advice along the way. I feel like we're in an incredibly dynamic time in the world of recruiting. A lot of the people I talked to over the last day have talked about an increase in the competition in the world for finding the best and the brightest. but also at increasing the innovation that's come to bear on the industry. New tools, new capabilities, new strategies, new data. And there's a lot of change. And so let's talk for a second about what Talent Connect's about. Talent Connect is a moment to pause, to learn, to network, to be inspired, and to think about where do you want to take your team over the coming years. We rarely get these moments. We're often caught up in the day-to-day. Let's use this moment to chart the future together. And so I have 3 pieces of advice for you, for those of you that haven't been in Talent Connect before. The first is that you're going to walk out of these sessions with a long list of things that you've thought of that you want to do when you go home. And this is an event about making you better, about helping you take your teams to the next level. And so it's all about what happens after you leave. So my first piece of advice is promise to yourself that coming out of Talent Connect, you're going to come up with 3 things that you're going to do differently when you get back to your office on Monday. Only 3. You don't get 5. If you write 3 down, you'll do 3. To just immediately step on the gas of taking the insights that you've learned and putting them into practice. The second thing is that a lot of the speakers that we've brought forward are about helping you think bigger, helping you think about how you can take your team to the next level, take your role in the company to the next level, change the world on a broad scale. And so it's a great moment to think big. So I'd like all of you to ask yourself the question, when I come back to Talent Connect next year, what do I want to have accomplished? What is the big goal that I can set myself? How might I think about getting there? It's a great opportunity to think big. And then the last thing is, I know it's Vegas, but please pace yourself. I want everyone to go home in one piece. So let's all get to bed at a reasonable hour.